Hi guys. Tonight, let us take a slow, quiet walk through a place of warmth, rhythm, and gentle clatter. Not the great hall of a castle, not the armory or the battlements, but the kitchens. The heart of everyday life in a medieval castle, a place where fire never truly sleeps, where the scent of herbs clings to the stone and the sound of stirring pots, cracking bread crusts, and trickling water forms a lullaby of labor. If you're as excited as we are to dive into this captivating journey, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss out on more adventures into the past. Let's uncover the mysteries of the Middle Ages together. Hit that bell icon too, so you're always first in line for the next historical adventure. So, settle in, fluff your pillow, close your eyes, breathe gently. Let your mind soften like rising dough, and let us enter. The passage downward is narrow and cool. Stone stairs curve gently beneath your feet. Your footsteps are muffled by worn rush mats laid along the stairwell. Each step carries the faint scent of soot and dried herbs, lavender perhaps, or sweet marjoram. Above you the world still stirs, guards on the wall, servants walking to and fro. But here, as you descend, the sounds soften. Only the low hum of distant voices remains, and then even that fades. At the bottom, the wooden door creaks. Its iron hinges, though aged, still carry their weight with grace. You push gently, and the door opens inward, revealing a low-ceilinged chamber. This is the castle kitchen. The light is dim, but not dark. Golden, wavering shadows dance across stone walls. There is no harshness here, no candle flicker, only the slow, living glow of firelight. At the heart of the kitchen is the great hearth, built from heavy stone, blackened with age yet still proud. The fire within is alive but calm. Logs, stacked against the far wall, feed it slowly. The flames are not fierce. They do not roar. Instead, they crackle in a soothing rhythm, like the soft snapping of twigs on a quiet forest path. Listen closely. Crack, hiss, pop. The sound is as old as language. Older, perhaps. The language of warmth, of shelter, of food. This kitchen is broad yet low, a quiet hollow carved into the base of the stone castle. It is not shaped for elegance, nor for a grand display. It is shaped for function, for necessity, for endurance. The ceiling is vaulted, arched with careful intent. Not just for beauty, though the slow sweep of stone overhead has its own kind of grace. No, the curve is deliberate. A high arch allows smoke to gather near the top and drift toward vents, small openings hidden among the stonework. These chimneys are narrow, winding. Their paths disappear up through the castle walls, like veins in some... Not all the smoke escapes, of course. Some lingers in the upper reaches, collecting like grey ghosts in the rafters. But even that is by design. A smoky kitchen kept insects away from hanging meats, from stored flour. It is preserved, it is protected. The walls themselves are thick, impossibly thick by modern standards, and they hold their temperature with a kind of timeless stoicism. In summer they remain cool. In winter they bottle the earth's warmth like a memory, slowly radiating it back into the room. If you press your palm flat against one stone block near the fire, it is warm to the touch. Not hot, not sharp, but deeply warm, like bread just out of the oven. The stones are rough cut in some places and polished smooth in others. Where the servants have leaned for generations, where hands have brushed over time, the surface has worn down to a silky softness. The corners, once sharp, have been rounded by use, not by intention, but by life itself. The layout of the room is deliberate, functional, and centered around motion without haste. The hearth is placed at the center of the longest wall. Why there? Because that wall touches the old chimney shaft, and warmth here flows naturally outward to the adjacent storerooms. Even the placement of heat was thoughtful, not wasteful, but interconnected. Nearby sits the bread oven, a dome-shaped structure built into the wall. Its opening is small, but once stoked and sealed, It retains heat for hours, enough to bake loaves long after the flames have died. Just beside the oven is a recessed alcove where proving dough can sit in peace. The stone surface here is warm but not hot, shielded from drafts, perfect for coaxing yeast to rise. Above the alcove hangs a linen cloth, slightly damp, to keep moisture in. The work tables are placed in a U shape, forming a natural flow from preparation to mixing to cooking. Their wood is oak, strong, slow to warp, stained by time and use. Each table is slightly different in height, tailored to the preferred stations of the head cook and her assistants. The tallest table, near the back wall, is used for chopping, where standing is best. The lowest one, set beside the hearth, is meant for stirring bowls while seated, a relief for the knees and hips during long hours. Each table has a groove carved along its edge, a shallow channel meant to catch spills before they drip to the floor. Not all medieval kitchens had such features, but here someone once thought ahead, perhaps a steward with an eye for efficiency, or a cook whose hands had grown tired of cleaning. Above the tables hang racks of tools, suspended from iron bars drilled directly into the stone. Knives of many sizes, wooden spoons with long handles, ladles blackened by time, a scale with iron weights dangling quietly by a chain. There are storage shelves as well, built high into the walls. Some are carved directly into the stone, niches left open for ceramic pots. Others are wooden, creaking gently under the weight of sacks and jars. The top shelves are reached by a small three-legged stool tucked into the corner, or by the taller apprentice, who retrieves whatever is needed with a quiet grace. Each container is labelled, not with ink, but by shape and texture. A round jar for barley, a squat one for lentils, a long-necked bottle sealed with wax for vinegar. In one corner of the kitchen is a basin set into stone. It is not connected to a pipe. There is no plumbing here. Instead, water is carried in copper jugs from the well and poured in. Beneath the basin, a hole leads to a drainage channel carved into the floor and out of the castle wall. Clever, quiet engineering hidden beneath the stone. Near this basin is a smooth marble slab, cold to the touch, always in shadow. It is used for preparing meat, not for display, but because its coldness keeps flies at bay and slows spoilage. Now and then, a drop of water spills onto the slab. The sound is a soft plip. It echoes just faintly in the quiet room. Everything about this kitchen responds to the needs of the human body. The air flows from low vents to high shafts, pulling smoke upward and keeping breath easy. The stone underfoot is worn but even. No sharp angles to catch the toe, no dips deep enough to twist an ankle. A mat of woven reeds lies near the hearth, cushioning the weight of long hours spent standing. There are hooks at waist height where aprons can hang, towels can dry, and herbs can be tied. Not high, no reaching. Not low, no bending. Even the light is placed with care. Oil lamps sit in shallow stone sconces, carved into the wall at regular intervals. Their flames are dim, gentle, but positioned so that the work table is always gently illuminated. When the sun does rise and spill in through the stairwell above, the light moves across the floor in slow bands. The cook knows the hour by where the light touches. First the oven, then the proving bench, then the basin. She does not need a bell. The stones themselves tell time. And so, the room is a place not of spectacle but of motion. The cook moves through it like water, fluid, steady, unhurried, from hearth to table, from shelf to slab, from basin to bowl. She carries a ladle, its handle darkened by fingers. She places it gently beside the pot, where it will not roll. She reaches for salt with a motion that is half memory, half instinct. Her feet know the path, around the table, beside the fire, past the herbs. Even when she closes her eyes to rest, her hands twitch as if still measuring, still stirring. And when she speaks, which is not often, her voice is low and even. She speaks not just to her helpers, but to the kitchen itself, to the stone, to the fire, to the air. The hearth dominates the room, not with size, but with presence. It draws the eye, the warmth, the rhythm of the entire day. Logs are chosen carefully, birch for clean heat, oak for long, steady burning. A young kitchen boy sits quietly near the pile, sorting them by type, his hands dusty with bark and ash. The fire is not unattended, even in its calmest moments. A cook tends to it gently. She stirs the embers with an iron rod, shifting them with the patience of someone who knows the fire like an old friend. There is no hurry in her movements, only trust. Above the flames, a pot simmers. Its contents bubble in small, satisfied pulses. The scent is hard to place, something between onion and bone broth, mellowed by time and heat. Every so often, a fat bubble breaks the surface with a soft blup, a sound barely heard yet deeply felt. The air in the kitchen is thick, but not unpleasant. It is a tapestry of scents and moisture. There's the sharp tang of salt, the earthy richness of damp vegetables, the smokiness of roasted meat, though not fresh, lingering from earlier hours. And beneath it all, the warm, yeasty scent of bread, cooling on a stone slab not far from the fire. It is neither hot nor cold. The temperature wraps around you like a wool cloak, heavy, comforting, familiar. The smoke doesn't rise sharply. Instead, it drifts, slowly, curling in lazy spirals toward the ceiling beams, where it gathers in slow grey ghosts. Beneath your feet, the floor is uneven stone, worn smooth by generations of footsteps. Between some stones, soft straw has been tucked to catch spills and soften steps. In one corner, a wooden mat has been placed where the cook stands longest. It creaks quietly as she shifts her weight. Each movement is careful, measured. No step wasted, no rush. She hums very softly, a tune with no words, just a melody passed down, like the recipe for the broth she stirs. Through the fire holds center stage, the room is not silent. There is a soft splash as someone pours water into a basin. The trickle echoes faintly in the stone chamber. A wooden spoon rests against the rim of a clay bowl. Now and then, it shifts slightly with the bubbling of its contents, making the tiniest of taps. Farther off, a knife is gently honed against a whetstone. The sound is delicate, like rain on slate. In the background, the occasional scurry of small paws can be heard. A mouse, perhaps, or the resident kitchen cat, padding lightly toward a warmer corner. No one minds. The cat has lived here longer than many of the staff. She keeps her own hours, her own rituals. There are long pauses in the kitchen, not idle, but restful. One cook waits for the stew to reduce. Another watches over rising dough. They don't fill the silence with chatter. A moment to feel the heat, to smell the rosemary, to hear the world breathe. Everything here carries memories. The work table in the corner bears 100 knife scars. Each groove is a mark of a meal prepared long ago. There's a faint stain, red wine spilled during last winter's feast. No one scrubs it anymore. It's part of the wood now. A small bell sits near the door, once used to signal finished dishes. Now, it rarely rings. But the sound lingers in the walls, soft, high, silvery. Even the iron pot hooks tell a story, bent slightly from the weight of many stews, polished smooth where countless hands have touched them. Nothing here is new, and that is the beauty. The fire has been lit. Its steady breath warms the stone around it, reaching into every corner like sunlight drifting through deep water. And now, the day begins. But not with bustle, not with clatter or command. Instead, the kitchen stirs as a forest might stir, softly from the roots upward, with breath, with stillness, with reverence for the quiet before labour, before the castle wakes, before the bells, before the rush of feet in hallways above. The cook is already at her table. She has been awake since the sky was only a hint of blue. She moves slowly, not because she is tired, but because there is no need to rush. The bread does not rise faster for haste. The stew does not deepen in flavour with panic. She wears a linen shift beneath her apron, sleeves rolled past the elbow. There are flour stains, as there always are. Her hair is wrapped in cloth to keep it from the food. She has worn the same style for 30 years. There is comfort in sameness. There is wisdom in routine. She begins with the bread. The flour is stored in a barrel near the back wall, kept dry beneath a lid of oiled wood. She opens it slowly, the hinges making a soft creak. Inside, pale dust, fine as sifted snow. She scoops it out with her hands, letting it fall gently into a bowl. It sighs as it lands, a soft sound, like exhalation. Next comes water, lukewarm, drawn earlier, and warmed by the edge of the hearth. She pours with care, watching the surface ripple, the flour darken and pull together. A pinch of salt, ground by hand. A small mound of yeast, crumbled from a leaven kept in cloth since the day before. Then her hands. They meet the dough with familiarity, palms press inward, fingers fold, knuckles turn. The dough is stubborn at first, clinging to the sides, resisting structure. But she is patient. She does not wrestle. She coaxes. Knead, fold, press, turn. Each movement is slow, measured, mindful. Outside, a bird sings. Inside, the dough begins to breathe. The cook's inner reflections on how each season gently reshapes her tasks, her ingredients, and her body's rhythm. The cook does not need a calendar. She does not watch the sky for signs. She feels the seasons with her hands. In the dough, in the roots, in the shifting of her own breath as she walks the flagstone floor. Spring, she thinks, is soft and green. It begins with wild sorrel, picked on the castle slope just before the sun climbs high. The leaves are tender, with a lemon bite, perfect to cut through the winter's heaviness still lingering in the storerooms. Spring brings fresh eggs, paler than the summer ones. The hens wake slowly, like the rest of the world. She notices it in the yolks, richer with each passing day. The cheese, too, becomes brighter. Milk flows faster when the cows eat green grass again. In spring, the kitchen smells of damp earth, of peeled shoots, of new onions. She uses less salt in spring. She uses patience instead. Summer, though, summer is golden. She rises earlier, before the heat thickens the walls. And though the kitchen stays cool by design, even the stone seems to sweat in July. The fruits come in waves. First gooseberries, sour and small, then plums, sticky, dark, and sweet. She stews them slowly, with honey if the bees have done their work, or boiled down plain to store in crocks. Vegetables arrive faster than she can use them. Peas to be shelled, beans to be strung, cabbage to be salted and packed tight in barrels. In summer her hands never stop moving, but she does not rush. She only flows. Even her voice softens, as if the air itself is too warm to carry sound. The herbs dry faster now. They crisp in the beams above the hearth. She runs her fingers through the bunches at dusk, and they crumble at the lightest touch. She stores them in linen pouches, carefully labelled by smell. Autumn is her favourite. The fire needs tending again. The bread dough rises slower, richer. There is something grounding in autumn. The kitchen begins to hold weight again. It is the season of broth, of barley, of roasting roots. She lays out rows of apples on cloth to dry. She threads mushrooms with needle and string, hanging them in the window slit, where the last of the sun can find them. And every day, she checks the cellar, making sure the salted fish are cool, the pickles submerged, the cheeses aging without mould. Autumn asks more of her, not in speed but in memory. This is when she must remember what was gathered in spring, what was stored in summer, what must last through the dark. She hums more in autumn, tunes that no one taught her. They rise from her bones like wood smoke from the fire. Then comes winter, slow and dark. The cold sinks into the floor first, then the tools, then the joints. She moves slower, not from age but from necessity. Everything takes more time. Water must be warm to wash vegetables. Bread takes twice as long to rise. It is the only truly warm room in the castle. Children slip in more often, pretending to deliver messages, but really just soaking up the warmth. She lets them linger. She offers crusts and smiles, and doesn't scold. In winter, the meals are deep and quiet. Stews with marrow, loaves thick with rye. Sometimes, if the snow has not blocked the road, the steward brings dried figs or almonds from the south. She saves them. Not for guests, not for lords, but for the solstice. for her helpers. For a morning when the frost clings even to the ladles. Winter is not the time for gathering, it is the time for giving. And in all seasons, she listens. To the sound of eggs cracking in April, to the soft slap of dough on a summer table, to the pop of apples as they roast in autumn, to the hush of firewood settling on a January night. Each sound is part of a rhythm older than the castle, older than the stones, older than her own memory. She does not fear the turning of time. She bakes with it. She stirs it into the pot. She braids it into the bread. Her kitchen is not ruled by hours, but by seasons, by the tilt of the sun, by the silence of snowfall, by the patience of time drying in the rafters. The quiet counterpart, herbs. Across the room, a second figure moves with equal calm. A young kitchen maid tends to the herbs. She was sent out just after dawn, when the dew still clung to the edges of the rosemary and thyme. Now she spreads them gently on a cloth near the basin. Each sprig is laid flat, not overlapping, so the moisture can escape without bruising the leaves. She hums as she works, a tune her mother taught her, a lullaby turned working song. From a small mortar, she crushes dried fennel seeds. Grind, scrape, pause. The pestle makes a gentle rhythm, rounded and earthy. The herbs today will flavour the noonday meal, parsley for brightness, sage for depth, and mint, takes a touch, to lift the stew at the end. The girl does not hurry. She pauses often to smell, to sift, to listen. The young apprentice, knife and board. Beside the long wooden table, a boy prepares the vegetables. He is perhaps 10 years old, new to the kitchen, learning with every glance. His task is to peel onions. The skins are thin and papery, like old letters. They crinkle under his fingers, falling away in gentle curls. The knife he uses is not sharp, by design. Blunt blades force careful hands. He presses down slowly, feeling the resistance of each layer, the soft crunch as the blade slips through the flesh. Each piece is gathered into a bowl, not too fast, not too many at once. He has been taught to keep the pieces even, so they cook at the same time, so they melt, not burn. From time to time, he wipes the tools of rhythm. Every task has its tool, and every tool its place. There is the knife, the rolling pin, the pestle, the wooden spoon, not the bright stainless steel of modern kitchens. These are tools of wood, bone, stone, and iron. Each one worn smooth by use, each one holding the story of every meal it helped prepare. A ladle rests in a hook by the hearth. Its bowl is blackened from fire. Its handle is wrapped in cloth to keep it cool. A pair of shears lies on the table, used not for cloth, but for trimming fat from meat. Nothing is shiny. Nothing is decorative. Everything is useful. Everything is ready. The cook does not need to look. Her hand reaches, and the spoon is there. The bowl is there. The blade is exactly where she left it. This is not a coincidence. It is a rhythm. It is a ritual. The sounds between tasks. It is not silent in the kitchen, but the sounds are soft, rounded, reassuring. The tap of a spoon against the rim of a pot, the gentle slosh of water poured from a jug, the rustle of linen being folded, the distant roll of a barrel being moved down the hall. Even the fire participates. Its crackle is gentle. It speaks not with roar, but with whisper. There is no shouting here, no sharp clang. Even footsteps are muffled by straw on the floor. It is a soundscape of slow motion, of careful touch, of waiting and watching. Preparation as ceremony. There is a grace to this labour. Each movement, no matter how small, is part of a larger ceremony. The cook lifts the dough, now risen, and turns it out onto the table. It sighs as it lands. She presses it into shape, folding the edges inward, smoothing the top with her palms. The boy brings a bowl of peeled onions. He sets it down gently, careful not to spill. The girl finishes tying the herbs in bundles. They will hang above the hearth to dry, scenting the air long after their oils are gone. A pot is placed on the hook. Water is poured in. Salt is added, grain by grain. Each gesture has weight. Each moment has presence. time does not hurry here. It stretches. It opens. The moment before the meal. Soon, the kitchen will grow louder. Not chaotic, never that, but fuller. Pages will enter, requesting breakfast for their lords. The steward may stop in, reading from his ledger. More hands will arrive. More wood will be added to the fire. But for now, the room remains suspended, balanced. The bread is ready to bake. The stew is prepared to simmer. The herbs are tied. The vegetables are cut. The fire glows with steady warmth. The air smells of yeast, thyme, and wet stone. The cook rests her hands on the table, palms flat. She closes her eyes, not in sleep, not in prayer, but in knowing. This music has no composer. It is made of centuries, of repetition, of reverence. It begins not with fire, but with form, the old shelf of tools. In a dark corner of the kitchen stands a shelf. It does not look like much. 3 wide planks of oak, bowed slightly in the centre, stained with oil and use. Upon it sit the instruments of every meal that has ever passed through these walls. There are spoons, many of them, long-handled and short, some made of wood, their bowls darkened with age, others of horn, polished smooth by years of broth and barley. One has a burn along its edge, a reminder of a moment when the cook stepped away for too long. Each spoon has its own place on the shelf, and each is chosen with care. This one is for porridge, that one for stirring stew, the smallest one, used only for honey. Behind the spoons rest the ladles, deep bowled and heavy, most made of iron or tin. One, rarer, is brass. Its surface shines dully in the firelight, catching just enough glow to hint at its former luster. The cook runs her thumb along its handle sometimes, as she waits for the pot to boil. It belonged to her grandmother. She does not speak of it, but the way she dries it carefully, the way she stores it upright, so it never rests in water. These are acts of memory, not just habit. Knives and blades. On the wall, hanging from small iron hooks, are the knives. They are not the gleaming silver of modern kitchens. They are darker, worn, balanced by feel more than sight. There is a large one, used only for meat. Its blade is thick, pitted in places. Its handle is wrapped in old leather, stitched once and never repaired. It fits the cook's palm like it was made for her. Another knife is thin, curved slightly, used for herbs, for fruits, for delicate trimming. A third, smaller, blunt-edged and worn to a soft curve, is used for teaching. It is the apprentice's knife, used on onions, on turnips, on bread crusts. Never hurried, never sharpened too fine. Each evening, the knives are wiped with oil and wrapped in cloth. They are not stored in drawers, but on their hooks, where the air can reach them, where rust cannot take hold. The sharpening stone rests nearby, flat and cool. It smells faintly of wet dust. When used, it sings, not loudly, but with a fine rasp. The rhythm of sharpening is slow, careful. Scrape, pause, draw. The bowls and basins. Beneath the shelf of tools, stacked 3 high, sit the mixing bowls. Each one is handmade, ceramic, thick-walled. They do not match. One has a chip in the rim, and when empty, they give off a soft sound if tapped with the knuckle, a gentle thunk, like a muffled bell. It is the sound of readiness. There are also basins, larger, made of stone or tin, used for washing, for soaking beans overnight, for blanching cabbage before the barrel. When water is poured in, the splash is wide and echoing. In the stillness of the kitchen, it sounds like a small fountain hidden underground. Jugs, pitchers and pots. Near the hearth stands the jug stand. It is built of wood, with rings to keep the vessels from falling. Each jug is different, One holds water, drawn from the courtyard well. Another, darker in colour, holds milk brought in from the cowshed just past dawn. A third, glazed in brown and sealed with beeswax, contains oil pressed from walnuts last autumn. These jugs are heavy, even when empty. When lifted, they make a low clunk against the stand. When poured, they move slowly, with patience. Their spouts have been chipped and smoothed again. On the hearth itself sit the great pots, blackened with years of fire. Their lids do not fit perfectly, but are weighed down with stones wrapped in cloth. Some are round-bellied, others are tall and narrow, each designed for a purpose. Soup, broth, porridge, ale mash. The sound of their bubbling is constant, soothing, the breath of the kitchen. The bread oven's tools. The bread oven, tucked beside the fire, has its own set of tools. A long wooden paddle, scorched at the edges, used for placing loaves deep inside the heat. It rests upright beside the wall, leaned gently so it will not warp. A brass bellows for coaxing the coals when they dim. Its handles are smooth as river stone. There is also a small broom, made from twigs bound tightly, used to sweep ash from the oven floor before the bread is placed. Its bristles smell of soot and thyme, not because it was scented, but because everything in this kitchen smells faintly of both. The sounds of use. There is a music to these tools, a quiet symphony played with each meal. When a spoon is set on a board, it makes a soft clack. When a jug is placed back on the stand, a muted thud. When a lid is lifted from a pot, it exhales. A wooden bowl scraped by a spoon gives a gentle scoop sound, like leaves brushed across a stone path. The pestle grinding seed in the mortar makes a slow crunching rhythm, repetitive and calming, like waves against a shore. The fire, too, plays its part. It crackles in answer to the ladle's stir. It hisses when water spills. And when all tools are at rest, when knives are wiped clean, when bowls are stacked, when the spoon finds its hook, the kitchen falls into silence, but not an empty one. They are rubbed with oil when the air turns dry. They are set near the fire, but never in it. They are repaired with care, stitched or riveted or simply tied with linen. Each evening, the apprentice wraps the spoons in cloth. He wipes the ladles clean. He rests the bowls upside down on the stone table. The cook watches, not to correct, but to witness. These small acts of care are part of the meal, as important as salt, as sacred as prayer. In this kitchen, the music is not loud. It is not made of laughter or shouting. It is made of the soft rhythm of hands, hands stirring, hands pouring, hands placing a spoon just so. Each sound you hear, each scrape, each splash, each hush of oil on stone carries the touch of someone long gone. The cook hears them still, not in ghosts, but in grain, in rhythm, in the music of use. So when you next stir your tea, or scrape a bowl, or hear the creak of a wooden drawer, pause, listen. You are part of the same music, the music that began long ago, in kitchens like this one, with nothing more than stone and fire and the quiet, beautiful tools of daily life. The fire crackles, the stone holds its heat. The kitchen remains still, yet full. It is a room of quiet rhythms, a place of simple tasks done with care, a place where the heart of the castle beats slowly, steadily. Even now, centuries later, if you stand very still and close your eyes, you might hear it again. The soft pop of the hearth, the creak of wood, the whisper of stone. And perhaps, just perhaps, you'll feel a little warmer, a little more at peace, as if you too belong there, by the fire. Good night, listener, and rest well.